Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming today. We're very happy to have you here. We're going to be talking today about how legal hubbers use GitHub. But before we get started, and before we introduce ourselves, we want to get an idea of who is here in the audience today. And so I'm going to ask a few questions, and with a raise of hands, if you could let us know how many people here are in a non-technical role in their organization. Ooh, great. All right, we have quite a few then. And are there any legal professionals in attendance today? Okay, I like that. That's not on the legal team at GitHub, so maybe one. And is there anyone here who uses GitHub to collaborate, but not necessarily on the development of software code? All right, great. We're really excited about that because I think we're going to be hoping to get some thoughts from you later. So to get started here, I'd like to talk a little bit about ourselves. We're on the legal team, as we said. My name is Brooke Roundy. My handle is Brookie Noodle. I'm a legal project manager here at GitHub. I was hired over 2 years ago in the paralegal support role, so I'm not a lawyer. I've worked in a wide variety of legal matters over that time, from employment, immigration, subpoena compliance, privacy operations, content management, equity administration, corporate governance, lots of different things. So stating what might seem obvious is that I hold a non-technical role within the company. The entire legal team is essentially in a non-technical role. Now, this is an important distinction to make because what we'll be talking about today is how the legal team, with a broad range of technical ability and backgrounds from computer science to robotics engineering to business and corporate law and all the way over to nursing, has adopted and embraced GitHub as the platform on which we work. GitHub is where we work, is where we get our work done. And then I'd like to say a little bit about what my background is specifically and the way that I used to work before coming to GitHub. Prior to joining GitHub, I worked as a paralegal at a big law firm, first in litigation and then in the corporate practice. Both areas of my work were characterized by very, very heavy email use, especially during my time in IP litigation. I lived and breathed email with a healthy dose of 2 a.m., a lot of meetings, conference calls, and then I was always surrounded by reams and reams of paper. Then I came to GitHub, where we don't do paper. Don't do paper at GitHub. And we don't usually shoot off emails every 2 seconds. We operate amongst a wide array of apps centered around an awesome platform. And mostly, all of these things happily exist in some place called the cloud. I'm not entirely sure I ever even heard the word workflow before I came to GitHub, which we need to change. It was a vastly different landscape from what I knew.
I'm Meena, Polich, Managing Operations Counsel at GitHub. I started at GitHub a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the mic's.
Is that working better now? Oh man, it was perfect before we started.
Is it off?
Is that better?
Nothing.
Wait,
Wait, I heard an echo.
There you go.
There we go.
There
All
you
right, sorry about that. Meena Polich, Managing Operations Counsel. I started here doing commercial transactions. I came here to work on our licensing and to negotiate our deals with our various customers and vendors. And I also helped launch our channel programs when I started. So now I'm doing a little bit more to help our legal team scale in support of the business. Immediately prior to joining GitHub, I was working at a large manufacturing hardware company that may or may not have made lots and lots of routers and switches. Huge company, and my day-to-day involved use of a very familiar set of tools: email, chat apps, video conferencing, and phones. Internally, it was more of spread across all of those, and externally, it was pretty much phone and email. My typical legal workflow for negotiating a matter would basically involve all of that labyrinthine craziness that you see on the screen right there. And everything came back and forth through email. Had to document every conversation in email. If you had an email with one person and you needed to contact another stakeholder, you had to have another separate email. If I wanted approval on some language, I was going to have to email the one person who could email the other person who could then direct me to someone else who would tell me, you need to give me a reason for the thing. Oh, but I'm not in this role anymore, so you should actually go talk to that person over there. And several emails, chat messages, and WebExes later, I would have approval for that one provision in the contract. And then I'd get to start that process over again. And mind you, this was a company who is actually at the forefront of legal operations and really works hard to make our work more efficient and productive. But again, we're constrained with these typical traditional technical tools. So when I came to GitHub, I thought I was going to be doing more of the same. That's what all of my counterparts at my customers and vendors were doing everywhere else, working on email, a matter negotiation tool, matter management tool, chat, all of those things. I came to GitHub, and I said, oh, no, no, no. We use GitHub for everything here. So if you want something done, you're going to have to open an issue or create a pull request. So once I discovered what a pull request means and what an issue is, I discovered that at GitHub the company, we use GitHub the product to work as GitHub the business. Today we'd like to introduce our community to the way that we leverage the power of GitHub to deliver legal services to the company, and to show that not only software developers, but anyone supporting the business of making software can use GitHub to empower transparency, collaboration, and growth across your entire business.
And before we get into the way that we use GitHub, I'd like to talk a little bit more about legal transformation. The way that we use GitHub to collaborate is interesting for the feedback cycle that it creates and the possibilities it uncovers. But it is particularly interesting given current trends in the legal industry. The industry as a whole has been slow to change, that's not news, but its transformation is finally unfolding with a focus on innovation to drive value. In 2015, Altman Wheel's annual survey of chief legal officers revealed that CLOs believe in-house legal departments will drive 40% of that change, while 20% believe that it will be technology that moves things forward. We both recently attended a corporate legal operations consortium, or CLOC, annual conference. At CLOC, many legal tech companies were in attendance, and many of them legal tech startups, undoubtedly building their products on GitHub, working to deliver technological solutions to the industry. The themes from nearly every conversation at that conference will sound familiar. Workflow, collaboration, AI and machine learning, data analytics, automation, transparency, value. The question is, how do we make better decisions and get to solutions faster, thereby driving value all the way through the business? Indeed, how do we do that? We have an answer. Through transformation of the corporate legal team from a reactive, siloed business unit to an embedded, informed, and proactive business partner. How do we become that proactive business partner while working at a software company with developers? We don't see ourselves as non-developers. We recognize we are part of the developer ecosystem. The way we've used the product can be adopted to any non-developing organization in a company that creates or uses software, and for that matter, any organization in any company. As Chris noted in his keynote, GitHub was built for developers first, but not developers only. The idea was to reduce the barrier to entry to anyone who wanted to program or even just move things or make things move on a screen. Our founders may never have imagined, but GitHub has reduced the barrier so far that we don't have to just build software on it. We can actually design and change how people like ourselves, legal professionals, work. We're all GitHub users and collaborators. And now Meena is going to demonstrate how we do that.
So the easiest way to show you how we've made it work for us, at least in my realm of contract negotiation, is to show you the workflow that we now have for contract review. As you saw before, it was a mishmash of craziness and back and forth and sidebars and back channel conversations that finally eventually lead to the end result. Using GitHub, we've been able to condense and consolidate all of that communication primarily into one place, the platform that is GitHub and our repository on it. We do still use chat. We do still use email to work externally with our clients. But we primarily focus the conversation about the deals that we're doing within the issues in our repository. We open an issue, review, negotiate, discuss, and approve, et cetera. And I'm going to show a little demonstration of how that works. So we have a form, and the nice thing about working at a company for developers made up of developers is they're always happy to make little programs and scripts for us so that we can actually get our stuff done. So one of our colleagues, Ben Balter, kindly created an intake form that allows us to actually, it should be playing right now. It allows us to actually take in the information that we need for the deal. We want to know who it is that we're negotiating the contract with. We want to know what kind of deal it is. And what's the context of how we're working with the customer on this. I'm going to see if I can get this to play here. There you go. So once this is actually completed, the form is actually completed, and the requester submits the form, it automatically opens an issue in our contract review repository. Where we can actually begin the discussion and approval process about the deal. So we can use Markdown to actually demonstrate red lines or desired red lines to our contract and have a conversation about that with all of our stakeholders and any of our stakeholders without having to open up the document. We can attach the document in issues, and we do that because we want to preserve the context and the versioning of our documents, but we're also able to elevate that through the conversation with Markdown and with the use of these conversations. We go through the process. I can bring anyone in the company as a stakeholder in to comment on the issue. So if I need to know if we can actually operationalize a request from our customer, I can bring somebody from sales operations in. I can bring somebody from engineering in, and they can weigh in right there. They can approve right there. I don't have to send a separate email. I don't have to put anything in an intake tool, and we can get our results and our answers back to our clients and our customers faster. So doing that, it's not playing. That's okay. Doing that, we're able to attach the final document to the issue. We can actually get it signed, and then attach the signed document, collect all versions of the document, including the fully executed document in the issue, and then store it in our contract repository. Now, when I want to go back, and then we can close the issue so that we know we have other things that we can move on and work on. But now I know that I can go back to our repository, and if I see a customer request, a new customer requesting a similar modification to our contract, I can say, oh, I think we've done that before. I can go back and search through my issues, find out where we've actually made that concession or where we've worked with the customer, find out if we did it, how we justified it, who approved it, and then cite all of that, link to that same issue in the new request and say, hey, we've done this before. Can we do this again? And it moves us to closure of the deals so much faster than anything I have ever experienced before. Technology. Oh, now it's playing.
There we go.
All right. I think we got the idea. We'll move on. So what this has done, us being able to use the tool in this way, and this is just one example of many as to how the legal team uses the tool, it's flipped the developer, non-developer paradigm for our team. We don't see ourselves as non-developers because we are prolific GitHub users. And we're able to do the same thing with GitHub that software developers are doing. We have become developers. We develop legal content instead of Ruby, instead of Rails. We collaborate on that code with each other. We deploy and ship our content to our customers, to the company in the form of policies, executed contracts. This has enabled us to become embedded business partners. We are no longer reacting to a last-minute request to go ahead and hurry up and make sure that what we're doing is legal, or can you please make sure that I'm not going to go to jail? We're already in there long before it ever has to get to that point. All of GitHub collaborates to the platform, which makes it that much easier for us to have access to everything anybody else is doing or asking about. It gives everybody else access into what we're doing and what we're thinking about. There's also varied levels of access, so we're still able to preserve the protection of sensitive information when we need to. There are certainly certain issues that shouldn't be visible to an entire company. We can, and that applies to any team, not just the legal team, but we're able to protect the information that is sensitive that we need to protect, and we're easily able to then reach out to everybody in the company when we need to make sure that what we're doing moving forward, how we're supporting the company, how we're supporting our clients, is actually effective. We have a culture of adoption at GitHub, and particularly on the legal team. We have all embraced use of the platform, and it is through that embrace, through that willingness to adopt anything new that comes along, that we're able to be successful. Along with that is the multi-layered communication that basically enables us to get to an answer faster and to be able to ensure that things don't slip through the cracks. And at the end of all this, we have constant iteration. It's not enough to simply sit on the platform and hope it does what we need it to do. We work with our colleagues, we work with the developers to say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? It would really help our workflow for the legal team. And I even had one of our engineers from Houston, Will, come up to me yesterday and say, I love what you all are doing in the legal team with our repos. You are using this in a way that our team has never even thought to use it in terms of communicating and collaborating. And so this has made us a crucial partner to the entire company in terms of providing business services.
So becoming embedded business partners has required a certain level of discipline and consistency in how we work on GitHub, the platform. So let's drill down a bit further and see how we've used each of these pieces to work better together. So let's start with repositories, where everyone knows that's where the magic happens. Everyone at GitHub and on GitHub works in a repository. For GitHub Legal, using repos transforms our ability to manage our content and our knowledge and organize how we support the company. And one best example, the principal example of how we engage with the company is through GitHub's legal repo. Integrated with our chat application, of course, it's a principal way in which we engage on legal issues. And this can be questions from the company about intellectual property assets, to our dog policy, to event codes of conduct. The legal repo is where Hubbers can directly and transparently engage with the legal team. It's the inner sourcing of legal questions in a company-facing forum that allows any Hubber to benefit from an issue opened, question posed, discussed, answered, and then closed. And just by simply watching the repo, or more directly through individual or team app mentions, that's the way that you can be engaged. This is the power of transparency with the entire company. And it's this transparency that brings something that's very important in its trust. The legal team is approachable and a trusted business partner. Now, of course, as Meena mentioned, if we need to have confidential communications, we can do that too, and that's through the flexibility and versatility of the product of GitHub. The legal team is able to collaborate privately as a team and with our other business partners. Oh, that's me. So some of the other ways that we collaborate, and specifically through issues, I think that issues, this is my opinion, I love issues. This is where I do the majority of my work, is in issues. And the way that issues work so well, and the way that really as a legal professional, when I encountered the issue and what it could do and how it can replace email as that primary way of communicating and reaching decisions, is when I saw the power of GitHub. It's because issues create, it's contextual. So you have all the information you need there. It's not disparate where you might have information in different email threads. It's all centered in one issue. Now, even if it's actually in another issue, the beauty of it is you can link the issues. It's archivable and searchable within the repository. It's really a central area where you can search if you need to find a particular issue that's already been handled. And it's transparent, as we've noted. Again, that word, transparency, I think is really important. I think it's important because it's where we ask questions and engage. It's where we distill and deliver information, and it drives decision making.
So one other thing to add about issues that is important, we've talked a lot about emails to issues. Issues replaces our email as a use of communication. Issues don't simply replace email. Issue really facilitates our entire workflow. We can use issues to project manage. We can create a tracking issue that actually tracks an initiative where we might actually have several different the problem with the word issues is it's kind of, you could use it for lots of things. Any subtopics that we want to discuss in order to accomplish the actions for a particular initiative or build a process or a policy, we can track all of that in one issue so that we have actionable items and deadlines associated with that. We can check it off in the tracking issue, and we can always link back to that tracking issue. So even if a question and a subtopic is going a bit off the rails, we always have that tracking issue to bring it back to where we're originally focused on. So the issues is not just for communicating back and forth, but it's really sort of an exponentially impactful communication tool.
It's also, you can also use issues in different ways in different repos, depending on what your project is and depending on what your need is. I work in lots of different areas for the legal team, and I've used issues in different ways. So if you want to have a specific way you use an issue in a particular repo, you can have a contributing file or your README that tells you exactly how you want to use the issue, or just have your issue template.
So the other major subset of the repos that we use is the ability to actually create content and to version that content in GitHub. So here we talk about content to code. As most of you are probably aware, pretty much the entire legal profession is all content. It's all words. And again, like Chris mentioned in his talk yesterday, and Miju as well, is there really a difference between words and coding? They're all languages. So it's just the way that we're communicating and the way that we're structuring our thoughts that differs. So even with the legal team, we've converted content to code. With the ability to create files and pull requests within GitHub, we're able to have way more advanced, consistent, and detailed versioning than any sort of word processing and legal tracking tool that I've seen. We're able to work asynchronously so that if I need feedback on a document, I don't have to sit at my computer anxiously waiting for somebody to hurry up and log on and do it. I can move on to the next task, and that person, when they have time, can come back. Or they can think about it, walk away, come back. I can return the next morning and find that my document has been changed way for the better. It enables us to iterate. It enables us it's so easy to change, it's so easy to do pull requests, and they're so transparent to everybody who has access to the repo that it's really easy to move and take decisive action to make the content, to make the policies, make the processes, make the templates better. So here we're creating files. We use files more for things like we just described. We use files to create policies that we disseminate throughout the company. We use files to create documents. We use files to create blogs. We use files to create our contract templates. Our latest version of the TOS was initially created as a pull request, which we'll show you how that looks in a minute, as a pull request in the legal repo. So we can create the file, and then we can go ahead and save it and post it and share with our team that we would like their feedback on whatever it is that we're creating. In this case, it's simply a sample instruction manual on how to actually use this repo, contracts demo, how to use this repo to request contract review. So I've made this file, and somebody sees it, and they say, hey, you've made a mistake in the way that you structured the instructions. So they open up after they've opened up the file, and they say, hey, looks like you should have had section 3 after section 4, whatever it is. So feel free to watch this carry on as I'm talking. So what happens is my colleague is able to make the change themselves. They don't need me to give them a secret password. They don't need to save the document anywhere except for just commit, or as you'll see, create a pull request. After the pull request is created, and there might be a little bit of a lag, and I probably, as a lawyer, I provided way too much information and reasoning for what I'm trying to do here. They'll create the pull request right here as you see the second option. And it'll pop up. What's going to pop up is more lawyer explaining why they're trying to create this file. So what I want to talk about is the fact that this is the kind of thing that we can get accomplished in either an hour or a day, but at the same time that we're doing many other tasks in support of our business. I can walk away from this and know that the rest of my team is collaborating with me in the background, whether I'm present or not.
I think what's key here too is that there's context. As you know, this is the benefit to developing code in this manner. That's the beauty of it. There's context to why you're making a change, and why wouldn't that also be really crucial for developing legal content or policies and procedures?
Yeah, and what you see here too that is also key is we have the ability to show diffs. So while it's not the same capability as redlining in, say, a word processing document, we're still able to show the differentiation between the original document, what we took out in red, and the new document, what we added in green. And with every version, we're able to show those diffs from version to version. I can go back in and approve those comments. I can make a comment in line, or somebody else can make a comment to say, hey, why did you do it this way? Can you explain? And we can actually have a conversation in the context of the document.
And also, it's exactly where we work. This is where we work. We work in the repos, we work on GitHub, and we don't have to go outside GitHub to create this sort of content. So I think that, I think we are coming up to the end of our presentation, and I just wanted to say a few things. I think that this conversation is just getting started. When I first came to GitHub, it was a vastly different landscape and very different than the way that I used to work. But it was scary at times, but it was really, really exciting. It's incredibly exciting because all of the pain points of my past practices, particularly at a law firm, I could see the power of how GitHub, the product, could really smooth out many of those and ease many of those pain points. And I'm still really excited today, continuing to work at GitHub and seeing how we can iterate on the way that we work using GitHub, the tool, and I feel like this conversation is just getting started. Yesterday, Tal Neve, our colleague, talked a little bit about how we have open sourced some policies on GitHub, and so there's a whole other conversation to be had about how legal professionals can use GitHub, because I believe that GitHub is not just for developers, GitHub's for legal professionals, GitHub's for lawyers as well.
So what we've found, so what we've given you today is just a taste. It's a very small sampling of how we use the product. But I think it's demonstrative of how we've transformed our ability to work effectively, efficiently, productively, and collaboratively with our stakeholders. We have become trusted business partners. People know, they see us on GitHub, they see us all over the issues, they see us all over the repos, they know we're there for them, they know we're paying attention, they know that we're not going to come in and ask a bunch of questions without context. And we encourage them to do that in our repo. We encourage our colleagues to come and do the same thing with us, so they know they can trust us to have a real two-way collaborative conversation. Coming to GitHub was a really difficult transition for a lawyer, at least, but I think as we heard in Chris and Miju's talk yesterday, it's one of the scariest things for anybody, because when you get on GitHub, and you put something out there that's going to be visible to everyone, you open an issue, you comment on an issue that's visible to everybody, it's very terrifying to think that they're going to see you do a wrong thing, especially in week one. And guess what? Week one, I commented on an issue, and I was immediately challenged. How many of you think that that challenge was from a lawyer? How many of you think that challenge was from an engineer? They admittedly, as you see here, I'm not a lawyer, but, and in fact, they don't even spell it out anymore, it's another acronym. I'm not a lawyer, but what you're saying is totally illogical. The first time I saw that, it gave me pause, it was jarring. I'm like, they hired me to come here and give legal counsel. It would have been really easy if it was on email for me to shoot back a very polite or passive-aggressive email citing my legal credentials that qualify me to make the comment, and can you please go sit in the corner, Mr. Engineer Guy, or Ms. Engineer Lady. But the beauty and scary thing about GitHub is that because it's out there for everybody to see, because you're being transparent, you have to recognize that what you put out there now is what's going to stick with people. And it makes you stop, it makes you reflect, and it makes you interact with your colleagues very thoughtfully. Do I want to be the person who cares more about being the expert? Or do I want to work with my colleague to find a better and more creative solution? Like Chris said yesterday, software development isn't about coding anymore. We're going to have robots doing that in about 5 minutes. Software development and anything that goes along with it and anything that we do in life as humans is about solving problems and being creative. To me, coming here and knowing that I can be part of that process, that I can be part of that environment of working together and solving problems, that on the one hand I can say, you're right, Ms. Engineer, it's totally illogical, but that's the law, which is always, or I should say often, illogical. Or I can go and say, you know what, you're right, I never thought about that. I'm going to step out of my siloed world vision and think about what you said. Let's actually try to make this work. And to me, more than anything, that's the power that GitHub has for all of us. And I think that's it.
Thank you.